Hello again. Welcome everyone to this very special prep session for Reedsy's Novel Sprint 2025. My name is Martin. I'm from the team here at Reedsy. I'm a writer. I'm also the head of content, the YouTuber, general sort of dog's body here to help everyone do their best to write the book they want to get out there and help you get the results that will, keep you going on. I want to thank you all for joining me here today. As you may be aware, Reedsy has launched this new challenge, the Novel Sprint 2025, which I'll be going to in a little bit of detail in a second. If you haven't signed up already, don't worry, there's plenty of time, and I'll be showing you exactly what it all means. So before we start, we might as well bring up this here presentation. We're planning to write a book in a month. So that can be sort of viewed in two different ways. You've got a month to plan how to write a book. However, you are also planning to write a book in a month. Not sure that clears up anything, but throughout this presentation, we'll be hitting a couple of points. First of all, I'm going to be introducing you to this concept of the Reedsy Novel Sprint. What is it? How it differs from some things we may be familiar with in the past. I'm going to be talking about how you can set yourself up for success. Go a bit into planning your book. For indeed, that's what this is all about. I've got a very special treat for you there. Talking about building a sustainable writing routine. I think that is going to be a big part of the focus here today. When we think about, big challenges like this, we all think about going all guns blazing. But I think if there's one thing we take away from this whole thing today, and perhaps this entire endeavor, it is always better to behave and act and work sustainably than to burn yourself out. I'm going to be offering some of my top tips, things that I have picked up that I have found useful for myself as a writer, both professionally and my sort of more artistic work. And then we are going to have a little bit of a Q&A at the end, so stick around. So, first of all, what is the Reedsy Novel Sprint? Those of you who have been in the sort of writing space, especially online for the last 15, 20 years, will be aware of NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, something that is neither national because it was a global thing, and not everyone necessarily did their novels for it. For various reasons, they, I think, called it a day earlier this year, having inspired many people to, put the effort in, carve out time, and turn November into a creative month. They ran into certain issues that we're looking to avoid ourselves. However, the things that we loved about it was the idea of writing 50,000 words in November. We have always tried to de-emphasize the idea of you can write the entire manuscript that's 50,000 words, because truth be told, if you write a manuscript that's 50,000 words, you're probably not going to sell it to a traditional publisher. It's a novella at best, so perhaps it was National Novella Writing Month. But the prize itself, the challenge, the goal, to win it, all you have to do is write the 50,000 words, and that in itself is a prize, which is fantastic. It is no small feat, and those are 50,000 words that you would not have had at the beginning, and it gave a lot of people the impetus and the inspiration to write their first books. It was a movement driven by a community. Lots of people sharing their progress, giving each other a lot of support. I think in the end they sort of ran into some issues with the moderators, which we're looking to avoid as well. So for that, we have Reedsy Novel Sprint. However, that is same thing still. We're talking about writing 50,000 words. We are not telling you to limit it to a novel. It can be memoirs, it can be short stories, essays. Why do we call it Novel Sprint? If I'm being honest, it was for search engine optimization purposes. However, we are just in the business of encouraging you to write whatever it is, the thing that you want to get out there in the world. We'll be here to support you with that. So for that, you can get some portion of your manuscript finished, or if it's an anthology, all of your manuscript. However, the thing that we're trying to add to it is the idea that we are going to be offering some rewards. What kind of rewards? And prizes. What prizes? So let's go through the idea. Every writer who writes 50,000 words in Reedsy Studio will be able to track it and everything. Will get 3 months of Reedsy Studio Premium. Doesn't matter what you write, so long as it's actual words. We've put in a couple algorithms in place that it's not designed to sort of scrape or steal anything, just to make sure that you aren't copy pasting anything and that AI hasn't been used for it. We're here to encourage you to use the app to sit down and build that habit and write these words. If you hit your 50,000 word goal in November, you'll get 3 months of Reedsy Studio Premium. Currently, you can use a 30-day free trial that you can use for that. And that includes features to do with planning and to do with productivity. So it's worth, oh, sorry, I've got the UK prices on here, but I think they're sort of just a little bit north of that. So this price itself is worth maybe $40. On top of that, every writer who hits their 50,000 word goal can submit their first, whoops, I was going to replace that X with the actual numbers, but I think we're looking at the first, I think 1,000 or 3,000. I will clarify this closer to the date. Be submitted and to be read by our wide panel and then our sort of smaller, more elite panel of judges, which includes editors, writers, and literary agents. And there will be cash prizes, an introduction to literary agents, and the ability to call yourself the winners of the Novel Sprint contest, the inaugural one. Also, there'll be additional prizes. The 4th through 10th place will get e-readers courtesy of Kobo and Barnes & Noble. Those will be sort of allocated based on one's territory. I think Barnes & Noble are mainly based in the US, so if you're US based, you'll be assigned that. But we're glad to be partnering with them, and they've kindly offered these as a prize for that. One thing to clarify, you can, if you want to unlock the premium studio packages, you can start writing your novel now, and as long as 50,000 words are completed within November, you can unlock that, and that's yours. If you want to submit your manuscript or your first few chapters or your first chapter to the contest to be judged for the potential cash prize, the manuscripts have to be started in November. We had to think through this and realize that if you could just continue a manuscript you've been writing now, you could have written something 3 years ago and submit that. We want to sort of encourage you to take the opportunity to start hard on the 1st of November, and we want to see what you have and see how well you can sort of crack off that story, whether that's a short story and whether that's a memoir or a novel. So very, very exciting. So yeah, let's get to it. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to create a concrete plan and a realistic way to hit 50,000 words in a month. Now, what I'm going to be sharing with you are things that I've learned from professionals and editors and writers over these many years, and I'll be offering you tactics that have worked for me. But I think the big focus that we should take away from this today is it's all about figuring out what works for you. And so for that, we're going to have a little bit of introspection. In that sense, everything here is going to be ideally focused on you thinking deep about yourself, about what is going to stop you from writing that 50,000 words. Everyone wants to write a book. The first step is figuring out what is going to get in your way. What are the roadblocks that you are going to encounter? The things that are stopping you from being able to write that may be different from what's going to stop me, from what's going to stop Jeannie Riley or M. Alison Szabo. Question here, what happens if you have the first bones, first 500 words or so chapter outline? You always set that up in advance. You can qualify for as I mentioned, to unlock the reward, but to submit to the actual one, if you rewrite it in the app, there's no way for me to know. I think is the maybe answer there. However, yeah, going back to this, I want to use this as an opportunity to get you to think about the things that will be standing in your way. You have 20-something days before November starts, plenty of time to plan what your book is going to be about, but also set in place a plan, figuring out what are the things that could potentially stop you so you can head it off at the pass before it becomes an issue. As I mentioned, your barriers will be different from everyone else's, but today we are going to help you figure out what your barriers are. What are your roadblocks? Okay, so everyone who's done NaNoWriMo before will sort of be familiar with the maths. We're talking about 50,000 words in 30 days. That means on average 1,600-ish words per day. That's 3 to 4 pages. But the thing I think will be useful for you to do now is to figure out, on your best day, how long would it take for you to write that 1,600 words? Because that will sort of change how you approach this entire thing here. So I've got this little diagram of Reedsy Studio here. There's a couple of features that you can use, and let me share this with you just here. I've set up a little screen, my little project here to test. Chapter 1, if I type this out here, then you'll see. Okay, so as I type in there, there's this goals in insights tab that you can bring up that will show you exactly how many words I've sort of written in this section, and you can see it's popping up here under Thursday. So with this, you'll be able to sort of, I think, maybe over the next week or two, sit down and have yourself a writing session, and something that you think you will be able to do on a regular basis, and figure out exactly how many words you can write. Use one of the prompts we have here on Reedsy, work on maybe writing a scene, figuring out what your speed is, and then you can start breaking that down. To go back to the little presentation here. Actually, I'm going to do this one here again. I can't remember whether I've set this up later, but the thing you can possibly do is... no, I think we cover that a bit later. Sorry for confusing everyone. Here we go. Again, I mentioned this is all about looking inward. What's going to stop you? Is it time? Time's a factor for all of us. Is it space? Is it distraction? What's going to get in your way? Can you focus for that long in this modern age? Is it motivation? The whole thing here is it's not about shame. Not everyone's going to be the same. Knowing what your writing personality is going to be key to this next little session here. So let us start with the big thing, time. Nobody has enough time. First, we want to figure out what is going to get in the way of helping you find enough time to write. After all, there's we've got plenty going on in our lives. We've got work. I myself spend a good chunk of the day writing as part of my work. I then have to find some other time afterwards in order to write as well. Do you have family responsibilities? If you have a spouse, if you have kids, there could be the school run in the morning, there's making dinner, there's the whole bedtime routine. These are things that could potentially get in the way there. Social obligations. We're talking, if you're in North America, Canadians less so, because I think your Thanksgiving is now, but in the United States, you have your Thanksgiving coming up, and there's a chunk of that time that needs to be carved out. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, you need to start carbo loading for that, and perhaps assigning some time on that Friday to recover from what I imagine is still furious in-person shopping experiences. So, what can you do? I think the important thing is to figure out when can you find a regular time to write. And we're thinking about, during any given day or during any given week. Is it before work and before the school run, or after that? Can you wake up earlier and carve out that hour before everyone else wakes up? Can you do it on your lunch break? Do you currently take your lunch break, or do you just eat at your desk and work straight through it? Could you potentially, not sit in your car potentially, but turn your laptop to the window, go to the break room, and take an hour to just plug in and get some writing done then? Can you do it late at night? Are you a night owl? This is not necessarily everybody, but we need to figure out when you actually do your best writing. And that is sometimes not exactly the same time when you have time to write. You need to figure out when your energy peaks, your creative energy, and you need to sort of protect that like an appointment. For me, mornings are my thing. I've come to sort of accept that. I've been working remotely for 10 years now, and don't tell my bosses here, and hopefully they're not tuning in, but I do my best writing in the morning, and in the afternoon, absolute waste. Very often I'll tune in to work about an hour early, and I can write 3 times more effectively than if I try to grind through something in an afternoon. You probably know exactly, which one of those you are at the moment, and you need to find a chunk of time in that period where you are most creatively powerful, energetic, and be able to carve out some amount of time on a regular basis. Leah says they do their best writing evening, where their creative energy flourishes. I get knackered then. I'm just an absolute zombie. Yeah, M. Alison Zabo says that's when the coffee kicks in, so that's fantastic. Russa Sirius says inspiration gets flowing after 10, can't stop until 1. That's a great thing to have because nobody wants to meet you around 10 to 1, so that's always a good time to have. Yeah, if you can write it any time of the day, that's great. There are some people who could just sit down and just start typing. Doesn't matter when it is, where it is, but that is not all of us. Everybody else, you, me, probably, we need to find the time that is most sustainable. And then we go again. Something that is sustainable is always best. So, one of the things that I think will help with something like this is to get a calendar. It can be a virtual one, it could be on your phone, but if you have like a paper calendar to put on the wall, even better. Figuring out for that entire month all the things that could possibly happen. Do you have a parent-teacher night coming in? Do you have a regular trivia night? Is there dinner with friends that you've got booked in already? And you need to figure out what can you sacrifice? Which of these commitments can you sacrifice and which of these things are immovable? Because once you know the things that you have to turn up to, that's great. You just knock them off and you know that those are days that you cannot write in. You can find days of the week where you can commit to writing. Some people can write 7 days of the week. I think this is a sustainability issue once more. For some people, it is good to take some time off. It allows your creative batteries to recharge. To go back to this Reedsy Studio, let's see, Studio Share. Whoops. We have a cool little function here where if you scroll down, you can put together what your manuscript goal is. So I've set this one to 50,000 here already, but I've set up a special Reedsy Novel Sprint one. And for the purposes of this, I said it's due on 7th of November. That's 30 days from now. So it's telling me that I need to write, 1,667 words a day in order to finish this 50,000 words on time. And as I type it, that number will sort of readjust and go down. A great thing to use here is you can go to settings and you can actually start picking your days. So as soon as you figure out what regular days of the week you are able to work on, say for example, you could just leave your weekends. You can just leave your weekends open. I'll select Monday through Friday, but you can pick Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I'll save this one and it recalculates it and it tells me now that I need to write 2,273 words a day for each of my sessions there. And that gives me a number to hit every single day that I know if I stay on this one, I'll hit it by the end. If I shoot over, that number is going to reduce and it'll reset it. So you can make your goals more manageable as time goes on. Quick question: what if I've written Arc 1 of my book and do Arc 2 in the November sprint? Would that be eligible? As long as it's written there and it is the start of a story. If it's, the second arc, we are only really asking for the first chapter. So, if your arc is potentially a book, one could say, then that is all fine. As long as it is written within that time and it is something that you can hand to a judge without too much context around the side, then you'll be absolutely fine. Jackie's asking, will it keep track of your words in the app? I'm not sure what you mean. This is a writing app itself, so as you type this, it will all be saved onto the cloud. You can access it from any device in the world. But yes, as you type out, your daily word counts will go up and it will track how many words of this has been accomplished. Then who knows? So tell me, I've got 11 words of my sprint, and already the average has already gone down there. Cool. Let me pop this back to the slideshow. Let's see. Okay. Excuse me. But the big point is consistency beats intensity. Maybe it's the Brit in me, like we just don't like to sort of talk about going 110% all the time, because even going 100% for more than a few days is unsustainable. You will burn yourself out. You will have a bad old time. Okay, so talking about, blocking your time out. Schedule them like meetings. These are things that are non-negotiable. If you have something that turns up, a friend wants to come meet you for a drink, you tell them you can't. Pretend that it is a call you have for work. You can tell them exactly what you're doing, but in your mind, this is not something that can be moved. You can meet them afterwards, you can meet them before, but if you have a writing session booked in, until you hit it, can't move it. Just can't be done. As I mentioned, energy management, you've got to identify your best creative hours, get the most done. If you've only got an hour anytime during the day, finding that hour in which you work best will double your productivity there. Set micro goals, as I mentioned, daily word count goals. I think that's probably where I'm supposed to go into a studio to show you how that works. Reward yourself for stretch goals. Say, for example, like you're supposed to write that 2,000 words in a day. If you write 3,000 on a certain day, you can set little rewards for yourself. Okay, some questions are coming in. I'm gonna save them in a little tab for later. We've got a lot to get through. But yeah, and then this is what I like to do: celebrate every 10,000 milestone. This is a Colin caterpillar, or a generic caterpillar cake, which one uses for celebrations here in the UK. Every 10k, have something in place that you can just reward yourself with. You only got to hit 5 of these throughout the entire month, so celebrate every milestone you can. Okay, the next roadblock, the space problem. Virginia Woolf once wrote in A Room of Her Own, all I could do was to offer you an opinion upon one minor point. A woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. For this, she sort of means that in order to have the ability to be creative, you need time and you need space. Money in this case is just freedom from having to worry about paying the bills. That's time. And a room of her own is the space. Everyone needs somewhere to write, but this is not always something that we have. I'm lucky I've got a little office that we sort of pass off as a spare room and a studio. So I've got my little space to write, but not everyone has the luxury of their own little room here. But it's all about setting yourself up in a place that works for you. Everybody's different. Some people need absolute quiet. Some people work best in public. It's all about finding consistency. Where can you be consistent and get into that mindset and get yourself in the zone? Put your desk in the corner. Every time you sit down there to write, remind yourself why it isn't in the middle of the room. Life isn't a support system for art. It's the other way around. That was from Stephen King's book, On Writing, a memoir. I think I've got it back here somewhere. He talks about the first time he set himself up with a desk right in the middle of the room, the king of the castle, and found that he was absolutely lost. There's something to be learned from his setup of just putting yourself face up against the wall. You are here to work. On the other hand, we have Ernest Hemingway, who could write from just about anywhere in the world. This is a cafe in Paris, in Montparnasse, that he used to write in, bringing down notes and books and pencils. The marble top tables, the smell of cafe cremes, the smell of early morning sweeping out and mopping and luck were all you needed. So for him, he could work in public. And there's so many folks who just love to go to a cafe, a Starbucks, and dial stuff in. The smell of the coffee, the din of the espresso machines, the idea that people are there and you can't not look busy. So find a space that works for you at a time that works for you. So long as you can hit that place consistently, you can write anywhere. Okay, on to the next thing, the planning problem. This is probably like the meat of this whole thing. You have a story, you have an idea for a story, but you don't know exactly how you should be pursuing it. Should you be outlining it, ready for the first of the month? Should you be creating a detailed chapter plan? Character Bibles? Can you underplan a thing? Can you overplan it? There are some people who are discovery writers or pantsers who want to discover as it goes along. This is fantastic for this challenge. But those are also the ones who need signposts and North Stars and to know where they're going at any given time. So for this next little chunk, I'm going to be showing you a video. This is from a course we have on Reedsy Learning called How to Plan a Novel, which itself is an offshoot of our premium novel writing class. It's a 14-minute video taught by Tom Brumley, our head learning, who created the course He's a ghostwriter. He's been a novelist, a memoirist. So, but this one is a lesson all about plotting, and it covers the idea of being a plotter or a pantser, which he'll go into a lot more detail. But yeah, so let me wheel the TV in and put this DVD in, and I'll see you in about 14 minutes or so.
How much should you plan out your novel before you start writing? How do you go about doing so? What are the principles behind plotting that you need to know? We're going to look at these issues today and offer some useful tips and advice to help you get ready to write. The first thing to say about plotting is that there is no golden rule regarding how much plotting you need to do before you start to write. Every single writer is different in terms of how much plotting they need to do before they begin their books. So rather than feeling obliged to sit down and sketch out how the narrative is going to develop, it is better to spend a little bit of time working out how much plotting and planning you need to do to help you write. So here, for example, is the crime writer Ian Rankin. I have the feeling that if I knew what was going to happen in a story, I wouldn't need to write the story. I know as little as my characters when I start. Their journey is mine. I did once plot a book so completely that I never felt the need to write it. I've never regretted not plotting. And here's another crime writer, Sarah Hillary, who also doesn't plot. I did once. It involved an A3 pad and a lot of coloured post-it notes. The result looked like a science project and made me hate the story. By contrast, the literary author William Boyd is all about the planning. It takes me about 3 years to write a novel, and I spend roughly 2 years figuring it out and 1 year writing it. Iris Murdoch, who worked in the same way, called it the period of invention and the period of composition. I think that's quite a neat division. It's becoming absolutely rigid for me now. I get an idea for a novel, which is usually one sentence or a concept. Then I spend a long time thinking about it, filling out notebooks, travelling, acquiring the library I need for the book. I set about making more and more elaborate plans for the narrative and making lots and lots of mistakes, going up blind alleys and developing characters or sub-themes that fizzle out. Even then, I haven't actually started writing the book. The whole period of invention is absolutely crucial in my work. Eventually, and usually when I know how the book is going to end, I will write a draft of the last paragraph or the last few lines, so I'm sure of it, and only at that stage do I write chapter 1 and start the book. And somewhere in the middle is Patricia Highsmith, who tended to plot so far and no further. When I began to write this book, The Storyteller, I had gotten no further in my plotting than perhaps around page 120. I often reach a point beyond which I cannot think, cannot make an outline, and I become impatient to see something on paper, and so I begin. And I trust my luck, or to the momentum of the story, to carry me on. And for Patricia Highsmith, one of the keys to plotting is flexibility. A plot, after all, should never be a rigid thing in the reader's mind when he starts to work. I carried this thought one step further and believe that a plot should not even be completed. I have to think of my own entertainment, and I like surprises myself. If I know everything that is going to happen, it is not so much fun writing it. And finally, here's Kazuo Ishiguro on the writing of The Remains of the Day, which he wrote during a period he called The Crash. 4 weeks, 9 AM to 10:30 PM, Monday to Saturday, with 1 hour off for lunch and 2 for supper. I should say that by the time I'd embarked on The Crash, I'd consumed a substantial amount of research. Books by and about British servants, about politics and foreign policy between the wars, many pamphlets and essays from the time. The decision when to start the actual writing a novel to begin composing the story itself always seems to me a crucial one. How much should one know before starting on the prose? It's damaging to start too early, equally so to start too late. I think with Remains I got lucky. The crash came just at the right point, when I knew just enough. The debate about plotting often puts people into two camps, planners and pantsers, which is those who fly by the seats of their pants. But this is a bit reductive. In reality, it is a sliding scale between those who do a lot of planning at one end and those who do hardly any at the other. And in between, there are lots of writers like Patricia Highsmith and Kazuo Ishiguro who do what is the right amount of planning for them. Essentially, it comes down to a balance between security and freedom. Some writers get confidence from knowing they've got a plan behind them. Others respond to the freedom of not knowing where the book is going to go. So how much planning is right for you? Only you can really make that decision. But as you were listening through to those thoughts of those different writers, which of their approaches chimed with you? That should give you an indication of how much you need to do before you get stuck in. Plotting in advance, then, isn't for everybody. And if that isn't for you, then feel free to skip these next sections and spend time focusing on other bits of your novel preparation instead. But for those of you who do want to plot or outline, how do you go about it? Now, there are more books and theories out there about plotting and structure than you can shake a stick at. One of the earliest of the modern theorists was Joseph Campbell, whose book The Hero with a Thousand Faces looked at archetypes and structures of stories through the ages, and his ideas were famously used by George Lucas in the plotting of Star Wars. These were then distilled down by Christopher Vogler into The Hero's Journey, which broke a narrative down into 12 key stages. Other theories suggest that stories can be broken down into a small group of main plots. Christopher Booker's The 7 Basic Plots distilled storytelling down into, yes, 7 main story types. Researchers using big data techniques and Project Gutenberg suggested this number was 6. Similar research by Stanford University's Literary Lab pushed this number back up to 7 again. Then there are books such as John Yorke's Into the Woods, which would see this group of plots as subsets of a main storytelling arc of 3 acts. The film studio Pixar has a set structure that all its films should follow. Perhaps the most recent best-selling book on structure is Save the Cat, which adapts its formula for film, TV and fiction. If that isn't enough, it should also be added that all of these theories are particularly about Western storytelling, and depending where in the world you are taking this course, you might be writing in a different storytelling tradition entirely. We're not going to go through all these different theories. Instead, we're going to look at some of the more general principles behind storytelling. But if you're interested or would feel more reassured to have a structure to plug your story into, then absolutely, some of these accounts might be worth a look. But be careful. In another book about structure, The Science of Storytelling, Will Storr writes this: "These recipes work, but the problem with recipes is that every time you follow one, you get the same bloody cake." Now, you may have noticed here that in the examples given, a number of them refer to film and TV. And there is a reason for that. Because of the time restrictions in, say, filming a film script, structures become more important. And to give you one example, I once saw the late Anthony Minghella talking about the film adaptation of The English Patient. To begin with, they filmed the whole book. The film was about 8 hours long. So they cut it in half, but it was still too long at 4 hours, and so they had to cut it almost in half again. Now, this gives you a very quick sense of how much more narrative material is needed in a novel than in a film. You're writing on a bigger canvas. You can't just write New York, daytime, and your description is all done. That bigger canvas a novel occupies gives the space and the option to structure things in different ways. So be aware of that possibility and explore accordingly. Now, having talked about recipes and cakes, Will Stall goes on to say this: perhaps a more creatively freeing way of looking at plot is as a symphony of change. Now, change is one of the key elements in writing a novel, and it is one that we will return to as the course progresses. But from a planning perspective, I think about it in terms of the journey of your main protagonist. They should be a different person at the end of the novel to who they were at the beginning. And that is as a result of the events that they go through. When we thought about our protagonists in the previous session and talked about their wants and needs, then this process of change is baked in. From a bigger picture perspective, you can use that shift in goals as the potential framework for your story. Protagonist wants X. Protagonist achieves X, realizes X isn't enough. Protagonist learns that what they need is Y. Protagonist achieves Y. Shaping your overall structure around character and how your characters change embeds their journey into the narrative. And as I said already, when I've dealt with writers who are stuck with their plots, 9 times out of 10, the answer is to go back to the characters. But underneath this overall umbrella, how do you piece a story together? Beginnings and endings are straightforward enough concepts to understand. A beginning of a story should open things up. An end should be more about resolution. We'll look at these plot elements more specifically when we get to the main course. But what about that amorphous middle bit? The first element to remember here is causality. A story should be stitched together by a series of causally linked events that can only be told in one particular order. And the best definition that I've come across on this is from Aspects of the Novel by E.M. Forster. And he writes, "A plot is a narrative of events, the emphasis falling on causality. The king died and then the queen died is a story. The king died and then the queen died of grief is a plot. The time sequence is preserved, but the sense of causality overshadows it." Let's tie this in with some advice from Patricia Highsmith for new writers. I think it is extremely good for a beginning writer to make an outline chapter by chapter. The starting point for a chapter outline should be the question to oneself: how will the chapter advance the story? If you have a rambling, atmospheric, purple prose idea in mind for that chapter, be very wary. You may be wise to discard it if it cannot be made to carry a point or two. But if you feel that your chapter will advance the story, then you should list the points you want to make in that chapter. If you're a planning or a partly planning person, this is excellent advice. And here is how this setup should play out. Start with your overall character arc of wants and needs. Underneath this, plot out a chapter by chapter plan to advance the story, or as far as you feel you need to go at this point. And for each chapter advancement, stress test with E.M. Forster's idea of causality. Is the link there? Can this story only be told in one particular sequence? One final piece of plotting advice, again from Patricia Highsmith, is on how to flesh out the narrative further. The improvement of thickening of a plot is the piling on of complications for the hero, or perhaps his enemies. These complications are most effective in the form of surprise events. If the writer can thicken the plot and surprise the reader, the plot is logically improved. A good plot is one where a central character changes. They do that by being forced to make decisions, difficult decisions, and decisions with consequences. The more you can give your characters a hard time, the more they will be forced to react and learn about who they are. So as much as you like your main character, don't go easy on them. They can put their feet up once the book is finished. Until then, put them through the mill. first task is a relatively simple one. Read back through the examples of the different novelists quoted and decide how much planning and how much freedom you need to start writing. Your answer here will inform the following exercises. Now, think about the specific idea of the story you're wanting to write. Working through the principles of plotting, sketch out the following. Start by writing out your overall character arc of wants and needs for your protagonists. Underneath this, begin to plot out a chapter-by-chapter plan to advance the story, or as far as you feel you need to go at this point. For each chapter advancement, stress test with E.M. Forster's idea of causality. Is the link there? Can the story only be told in one particular sequence? Finally, think about Patricia Highsmith's concept of thickening the plot. What complications and challenges can you add into the mix to make the protagonist's life harder still? And then, if you have time, can you find a novel you have read recently and plot out the first 70 to 100 pages? What do you notice when working through that book? Is there anything in the structuring that you can tell and use in yours? You might not have all the answers at this point by any means, and this plan may well be a work in progress that changes along the way. But having something towards which you can work can often be useful for many writers.
Okay, thank you, Tom. If you enjoyed that, please consider giving this video a like and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Yes, just in case you wanted to do those tasks that Tom assigned at the end of that lesson there, I put them on this slide here. I'll be sharing this slide tomorrow with everyone who's already signed up on the Novel Sprint mailing list. And if you really enjoyed it, this actually comes from a 5-lesson course called How to Plan a Novel. This is the middle lesson on plotting, but it is a five-part video course with 5 P's of planning a novel, Tom's method, which talks about a pitch, a protagonist, the plot, the thing you just saw, a point of view, and place. That's location there. This is available for $49. I said I'll share a discount code in the video description here. That is actually a lie. I went through the system and actually couldn't find a way to activate a coupon for it. However, it's very much worth your while. And if you end up signing up to the larger course we have on how to write a novel, that's over 100 lessons, you'll get the sort of $49 back on that one. If you wanted to, you could take the course alongside doing the novel sprint. It's sort of designed for writers to be taking it while drafting, so it's not wholly incompatible, but you certainly do not need it. But links are all definitely in the description of the video. Moving on swiftly. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me activate. Here we go. The next one. The big one, the distraction dilemma, the thing that is, I think, a big thing for all of us living in the modern world. There are so many things potentially distracting us. Our ability to focus on one thing is being compromised from everything from doom scrolling to, TV. I was going to say box sets, but that's such an outdated thing. During the lockdown, me and my now wife got into the wealth of Below Deck series on Bravo. Some people I know can't get anything done until absolutely everything is immaculate in their own home, so cleaning can be a distraction. And there's a game called Balatro I've got on my phone that has eaten literally 100 hours of my life. If you are intending to do the novel sprint in November, this is not a joke. Do not download this game. You can save it for afterwards because it is a massive, massive distraction. So, what are some of the things that you can do to combat distraction? Well, first of all, set up a clean workspace. Stephen King had his idea of facing the wall with the idea that there are minimal distractions. This is not necessarily something that works for everyone else. My friend Pete's a writer. His office that he works from is just covered with loads of things. He loves sort of looking at the things on his walls to get inspiration. But for me, having a clean workspace, I think, is essential. To not have too many things on your desk that can make everything feel absolutely cluttered. If you're using Reedsy Studio, we have full screen mode, so when you're writing, there's nothing on the sides to distract you. One of the things I like to do is set up a second profile on the computer. So I've got my regular profile with all the stuff at work, and the desktop is just crammed full of icons and stuff and all my files. But I have also a writing profile. I do not have my email. I haven't signed into my emails there. I've got none of my bookmarks. That entire profile, clean desktop only for writing. You can download apps that block certain websites. There's BlockSite and Freedom are just two of them. These are ones that for a specific amount of time, they will not let your phone or your computer access, social media sites, anything that you could be distracted by. You put a lock on it, so for that hour or so, it is absolutely sacrosanct. It can help you lock that down and create reward systems for yourself. If you're already on the Balatro train, you can give yourself one game after 800 words. That's just a few minutes. If you, after the writing session is done, you can then watch an episode of Below Deck. And of course, put your phone in a drawer. This is something that is hard to do. There's, what if someone calls me in an emergency? It's like, does it really happen that much? Maybe there's someone else they can contact in place of an emergency. Keep it on the other side of the flat, in a drawer somewhere that is far away. If you get into the habit of that, you will in time learn to thank me. Okay, the next roadblock, the motivational dip. I'm going to show you that if you do this challenge and you do it properly, at some point you're going to hate it. You're going to regret it. You're not going to like the work you're putting out there. You're going to be grumpy that all your friends are going out for dinner while you're staying in to get your words done. But you're going to have to find some way to just push past that, to make sure that you are motivated throughout. And I think one of the big things is that you may lose faith in your project. You may decide that this is not great. Everything I'm putting down is absolute rubbish. There's no potential to become an actual book. But the real sort of secret purpose of this challenge, we say, is to write a book. We say is to get these words out there, the first draft of your manuscript. But I think the most important part of all of this is that you are teaching yourself to write even when you don't feel like it. That is the one thing that you want to have at the end of this. That is the skill, the ability that will serve you much, much better in the months afterwards. If November is the only time you can write a book, that's great, but you want to be able to put yourself into the position to always be able to write, even when you do not feel like it. So, how do you stop yourself from petering out? I'm going to say you should allow yourself mini writing days. You should be writing 2,000 words, but 300 words is better than nothing. If you end up only writing 300 words every single day, but you are spending your 40 minutes, hour, whatever you have allotted there, and that's all you can do, that is absolutely fine. What is important is not to break the streak. As soon as you go like, I'm not feeling like it today, but tomorrow I'm going to double it, you're setting yourself up for failure there. You want to give yourself an accountability network. So there are a few things that you could possibly do. There is, for example, tell people you're going to do this. Tell your friends, tell your co-workers, so that every time they see you, they'll ask you, how's it all going? How's the book going? It's going to be a little bit embarrassing, but if more people know about it, then it's really going to be harder to chicken out. You can use your community to keep you honest and motivated. If you know other writers, they can help you along the way as well. You can join Reedsy Writing Sprints. I've got 2 of them running every single week in November. We've got a Discord set up. I'll give you a link to that at the end. And you want to create rituals to trick your mind. You're not going to feel like writing every single day, but there are certain things that you could do to just jog your body into writing mode. Like the mind and the body and the senses are so interconnected. I like to light a candle so you can smell like it's writing. You can start with the same drink every session. I'm not saying an alcoholic drink, but the smell of coffee, the taste of a brew. You can give yourself an interest theme. This is my one. If you can hear it, it's one of the themes from Rocky. Right at the end, let's be jazzed. Every single writing session starts with this. And by the time it kicks in, which is about a minute and a half into it, I'm ready to write. Okay, enough of that. A lot of you getting distracted by that one. But this is something I do just to get myself in the mood. Imagining it's like your wrestler's entrance theme and light a scented candle, anything, anything, anything. M. Alison Zaba says, get dressed before writing, put on a tie. You basically just put yourself into work mode. I work from home these days, so sorry. Sorry, the music's too loud. I should have checked the volume before I went on. Anyway, let's carry on here with my top tips. Sorry, it was all confusing. I should have mentioned I was starting it. Might as well box some cow halves. I don't know. Okay, these are the things that are good to bear in mind throughout the entire month. Things that are little mind traps for yourself that you have to avoid. Perfectionism, that's a trap. We know the kind of stuff we love to read. It's all perfectly assembled stuff that has been perfected over months with the help of editors. There's a reason why even your favorite authors will never show you their first draft. They often call it the vomit pass, the crap pass. It is just getting the words on the page. The actual craft of it comes later on. It is what you build, it is what you work on in the edit to turn something that is a massive piece of granite into something that looks like a statue, and then fine-tuning it into something that's absolutely exquisite. So the whole point of this one, get the words on the page. Don't worry if it's no good. You can edit it later. Yes, as you say, you can't edit a blank page. Don't compare yourself to others. I hope you do come to some of the writing sprints I'm going to be running. There are going to be people there who will be talking about, in a 10-minute sprint, writing 600 words. Absolutely fantastic. If you don't write it the same, don't worry about it. Who knows what the quality of their work is? It could be great. They could just be liberated and happy to just put those words out. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say. Resist the urge to edit. You can go back and tinker with stuff to get it right, but the purpose of this is just to get it on the page. The edit can come later. We are focused on hitting those 50,000 words. And be kind to yourself. Tomorrow's another day, as they say. If you're unable to hit your target today, don't worry. Tomorrow's another one. It's about building up that habit. And also, here's a great tip I picked up from one of our guests. Never finish your sessions with the end of a scene. So you might go like, I'm going through a whole session and there's a great scene, builds to a climax, and it cuts to 3 days later. At that point, you might think it's a perfect spot to stop writing. But I urge you just to keep going a little bit more. Write 3 or 4 sentences. That's the start of the next scene. And the big benefit of that I found is you turn to the next day and you're not faced with a blank page. You've already started writing this. So what you do at the beginning, you light your candle, you play your music, you drink your coffee, you read back through the first 3 lines of that scene, and it's amazing how much more productive you'll find that. You'll go straight into it. So yeah, never give yourself a blank page the next day. Give yourself something to work with. M. Allison says, remember to eat the food and drink the water and get some sunlight. Yes, take walks. If you can get outside, go for a walk. November is lovely in most places in the world. Okay. So I want to thank you for watching this. I'd urge you to sign up for Reedsy Novel Sprint. If you head down into this, if you haven't signed up already, go to the Reedsy Novel Sprint page and you'll get added to a mailing list. I'll be sending an email at the beginning of each week, near the beginning of each week, with links to each of the live events that were going to happen. I'm not going to try inundate everyone with too many emails. I'm already guilty enough of that. We've set up some parts of our Discord to focus on writing sprints. So if you want to find other people taking part in the novel sprint, you can head there as well. You can try our novel planning course, and all the links are in the video description. So at this point, I've got a few more minutes. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them, whether it's about anything we've covered or the logistics of the contest we're running. I've got a few from earlier. Tim Maddox says, if you're completely redrafting a story, does that qualify towards the prize? Look, like in its spirit, it's supposed to be for people writing it from the beginning. But if you're redrafting it, I can't tell, man. I think whatever you feel, whatever your conscience is happy with, this is our first year, so it may be a little bit woolly, but we're trying our best to make it as fair for everyone as possible. Jeannie asks, is the manuscript itself that has to be done in November? We can do development in the system prior to November. Yep, you can use the planning features. I'll be going through a bunch of events actually next week. Sorry, you are correct. We have lost the music here because I cut to this scene. Sorry, yes, that Rocky music is from towards the end of the very first Rocky film. I think where Rocky has to rally and find it within himself to go the distance. Anne-Marie says, can you drop the link for the sprints? If you head into the Reedsy Novel Sprint page, I have not actually set up the YouTube links themselves. I can only set those up a week in advance. So if you do register through that, I will send you I'll send you an email at the beginning of each week just to let you know what's coming up. Yeah, sorry, Alison. Like, I lost the last 2 minutes. I jumped in here and got lost. However, very exciting. We're doing a special First Line Frenzy in a few weeks' time. Those who have turned up to Reedsy Lives before, you can, if you want to, you can submit the first line of your prospective story. And Rebecca Heyman, who's a former editor here at Reedsy, but now she's a executive editor at a big proper publisher. She will pick a handful of them and analyze them and give practical advice. Winzani says, let me put this back into the other one. Winzani says, should I set up a test book in the app to get the feel of it before setting up the sprint project? Yeah, you can set up as many books as you want. We have yet to launch the actual sprint project feature, but there's an ability to attach a challenge. There will be to any book that you've got going. So yeah, set up the book. You can start planning in it if you like. You can start writing something else in it if you wish. Lots of great features in there. There is, I think, if you haven't signed up for it before, a month-long trial period that you can use throughout. However, those are, in my opinion, a little bit bells and whistles. Most of the features you'll need in terms of the planning, in terms of the goals and tracking, are still available for free, so don't worry there. We have a question here. Will you tell us how many sprinters are taking the challenge? It's tough for us to know. So far, we've had over 2,000 people sign up to the mailing list. So, the purpose of this, like, if I told you there's like 8 people taking part, then there's a good chance you're going to win a prize. But hopefully there's more incentives than just that. If towards the time, I may make a sort of a judgment call as to whether I should reveal how many people are taking part. I don't know whether it's discouraging or non-encouraging. Jackie says that's great. It can give her enough time to get to grips with the software ahead of time. That's great. Hopefully it's built to be very intuitive, so I hope it doesn't take too long to actually make your way through it. Okay, so basically I'm going to be here for a lot of this month as well, doing live streams, and you'll see either myself or some of my colleagues going through in November. We'll be doing sessions twice a week that will include writing sprints. One I call Tip and Type Tuesday, where we'll have small craft-based tips in amongst these like 10-minute writing sprints where we all write together and share our progress. And then on Fridays, I'll be inviting writers from the world of professional writing, authors, screenwriters, to join me, and we'll have a chat and see what everyone's progress is. Okay, we're hitting near the end of the hour. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Head to the video description, click through, make sure you sign up. If you are registered, I'll send around the slides tomorrow, and I'll see you next week, I hope. Goodbye.